Hi everybody, it's Marc Laurenson here from Sydney Astrology School. Thanks for joining me. Now I'd like to talk about the Mars retrograde period and what it could mean for you personally in your own charts and how best to work with it, because I still feel that a lot of people still look at retrogrades as not necessarily a good thing, because there's a feeling of everything being pulled back and takes a little bit more time, and it's not necessarily really good to activate things during that period of time. And so there is kind of like this thwarting of energy. Well, there's all that can be true. There is that feeling of having to lay back on something a little bit more, but I don't want to turn it into something that we try to avoid or we look on as negative, because everything in astrology has something to offer. Everything in astrology is giving us something that we can work with positively, and the Mars retrograde period is no different, okay? Now, a lot of you might be thinking, Mars retrograde? Mars is probably the least comfortable with retrograde, I suppose, in a way, because, Mars is such a forward planet. It is a planet of activation, a planet of energy and getting your needs met, and, that feeling of everything wanting to move forward in a rather forceful kind of way. So pulling Mars back might feel a little bit like pulling back a horse or a dog that wants to get out and run around the paddock, and so it might feel a little tiny bit restrained, but at the same time, we've always got to look at what the retrograde is actually teaching us, particularly with Mars. And so sometimes we really do need to be able to come into a place of calming down a little bit, thinking a little bit before we jump into something. That feeling of taking a little bit of a rest, particularly of everything that we keep on, particularly in this period of time. In the 21st century, it's very much about go, go, go. And maybe we do need to go back and rethink about certain things. And with Mars, it's always going to be a feeling of going back and having a good look at maybe something that we missed along the way. Mars is always very, very fast and quite busy. And so sometimes there might have been something that was overlooked because we just didn't have the patience to stay around, or we just sped past it, or we were too frightened to actually do anything about it. And Mars is very much about our bravery. Mars is about our courage. And what I love about retrogrades is that retrogrades give you a second chance. It allows you to go back and to have another go at it, basically. You're going to hear a lot of those re-words, revise, renew, all those kind of re-words come in with retrogrades, and they're all correct. They're all there. They're all part of it. But having a second go at something that we may have not done the first time around, and Mars is probably going to be that possibly we were too scared to do the first time around, and now it's about plucking up the courage that we need to go back and revisit it and give it another go. Maybe we have to dive off the diving board this time. Okay, so before I go any further, I'm going to give you all the dates that are involved in this. So Mars starts its retrograde in Leo at 6 degrees of Leo, okay? And it will be on its stations retrograde on the 7th or the 8th of December, depending on where you are in the world. It goes back, retrogrades back into Cancer on the 6th or the 7th of January. And then it stations direct on the 24th or the 25th of February, and that will be at 17 degrees Cancer. So it retrogrades all the way from 6 degrees Leo all the way back to 17 Cancer. So it's actually going back over territory that Mars actually already covered between October 5th and 6th to December 7, 8. So between October 5 and 6 to December 7, 8, we probably, in a way, maybe missed something, or as I said, maybe we just didn't grab the opportunity, or maybe there was something about us that was a little bit hesitant about doing something or a bit scared about it. And it's going back now. It's going back to revisit it. Now, being in Cancer, being in Leo and Cancer, these are really important. It's really important to understand the signs that Mars is retrograding in. Leo is the sign of the sun, of course. So joy is always a big part of this. And Cancer, of course, is the sign of the moon. So it's about nourishment. It's about us feeling, getting our needs met on that level, on being nourished and loved. So I'm just going to underscore everything that I'm going to be talking about with that. Because the Mars retrograde in Leo is going back, looking for more joy in its life. And the Mars retrograding in Cancer is going back to where it really does need to be nourished or cared for or looked after. That comes into it as well. So that's kind of be the flavor of the Mars retrograde. So I'm going to go through Mars in every single house, retrograding through every single house, so you get a feeling of what it might mean in your chart. Now, Mars retrogrades once every 2 years, roughly every 2 years. So it probably, has this feeling for all of us, because it doesn't happen as often as Mercury. Mercury retrogrades for 3 weeks, 3 times a year. Venus retrogrades for about 6 weeks every 18 months. And so the Mars retrograde happens the least. And so when it does happen, I honestly believe we really feel it. We really do feel the Mars retrograde. And as I said, I don't want to look on this as, 2 or 3 months of us having to just be too blasé about something, or too laid back about something, or too scared to get anything going. I want to keep the energy alive by actually saying it's going back for a reason, and there's something back in that area, between October and early December, that area where we need to have another good look at what this Leo Cancer area of our charts could be about. Okay, so I'm going to go through what Mars retrograde could feel like in every single house. Now, I'm a Placidus astrologer. I use Placidus charts. So therefore, it could actually start retrograding in one house and move into the next house. I mean, even if you do work with whole signs, it will be doing that as well. Okay, so let's start. Let's have a look at how Mars could retrograde in the first house. Okay, so if you've got Leo Cancer in your first house, it is going to be retrograding there. It's going to have that feeling of you having to go back, particularly on the level of what you may have been scared to get going, to get moving. Maybe there was something in your life that you thought, oh, I'd love to give that a go. Or, I'd love to join that, or I need to ring that person. And there was something in you on the level of being scared to initiate it, scared to get it moving, scared to get it started. Okay. And so this is the bravery within you. You have to brave up. You have to be able to come into a place now where you go back to probably where you were a month or two ago, have a look at something that you really, really wanted, and then actually go, well, I didn't do it, did I? And look at why you didn't do it, and then go back and then address why you didn't do it, and then have another look at what it is. And if you truly, truly want it, this is your time to go for it. As I said, this is giving you a second chance for you to be able to grab and to make this happen. Okay, so go back, as I said, to the last couple of months, and this is going to be about bringing some kind of joy into your life, and also a way of feeling emotionally nourished and emotionally nurtured through what you're doing as well. Okay, so have a good look at what you wanted and you overlooked, or you were too scared to do it, and you're getting a second chance to be able to activate it this time. Okay, so let's have a look at if Mars is retrograding through your second house. Now, I'm just going to go down the road. People are going to go, oh, he's going to talk about money. No, I'm not. I'm not going to talk about money. I'm actually going to talk about your worth and your value and your self-worth. And I want to say that Mars retrograding is going back in your second house on the level of what you probably missed in a way because you didn't feel safe with it, or you didn't feel secure with it, or your self-worth was up for grabs. You know, I'm not good enough, people are better than me, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, is it going to pay me? I said I wasn't going to talk about money, but, you know, when it comes to not doing something, it might have something to do with I might be risking that area of my life as well. I might be risking the area of my security or the area of my stability in some kind of way. So it's going back to look at what you could have been scared of, and your self-worth and your security got in the way. Okay, so go back and have a good look at what you are worried about or what you do feel anxious about, and if it is a self-worth issue, to have a good look at are you going to let this part of your personality get in the way of what you want? And if it is a financial issue, then have a good look at, is this worth it? You know, am I, you know, that feeling of sometimes you put money into something that you go, well, you know, it wasn't really worth it, but sometimes you really do want something, really do want something. And you're thinking, yes, I will put the money into that. You know, so this is not a money thing on the level of going back and checking your bank account or going back and, you know, playing in the money world. But when I'm talking about money now, it has everything to do with putting money into what you truly value and stuff that's really worthwhile. So go back over the last couple of months and have a look at what that means. Okay. So when we're looking at Mars retrograding through the third house, I'm going to actually go down the road of ideas. I'm going to think you probably came up with an idea over the last couple of months, and for some reason you just didn't follow through. For some reason there was, you know, there would have been something that impeded it. Again, you might have been too scared to follow it through. You might have got distracted. You might have got waylaid. You might have just sped past it. And now it's time to go back and revisit what the idea was. It might have come through somebody. Somebody might have told you something. It might have been an email. It might have been something you saw on the internet. It might have been something, bit of information, you know, or a bit of the toing and froing of a message of sorts that probably sparked your interest, but you just didn't do anything about it. So maybe it's time now to actually go back and activate it. It's got joy involved with it, as I said, and it's got a feeling of nourishment involved with it too. When I'm talking about nourishment, it's just about your love, being able to be nourished with what you love. Okay. If you've got Mars retrograding back in your fourth house, I'm not going to necessarily talk about family all that much. I'm more about belonging. I'm more about coming home to yourself. I'm more about that feeling of you being able to come into a soft place to fall. Okay. And the fourth house is all about that. It's about you being brave enough in some kind of way to find out what comforts you, to find out what takes you home, what brings you home. It might have something to do with the home. You know, it might be something to do with the domestic environment or the family environment to a certain degree. Maybe there could be something in that particular area that you do need to confront or you do need to face. But you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking it's much more about you mothering yourself. It's much more about you giving yourself what you need on that level. To emotionally look after yourself, to emotionally care for yourself, to give yourself what you need as far as nurturing your own emotional well-being is concerned. Maybe there's been a lot of stuff going on, and again, you've been there for everybody else, but not for yourself. You might have been caught up in a lot of family stuff, and a lot of Mars going through the fourth house could actually stir up a lot of activity in that particular area, but you may have missed out on something on the level of giving yourself what you want. Mars is always going to go down that road in the end. It's always about being brave enough to give yourself what you want. And so it's about you being able to come into a lovely, comfortable, calm, soft, and when I say emotional place, I mean it in a really positive way, to give you what your heart wants. So that's how I see it. If Mars is retrograding through your fifth house, then, of course, it's always going to be about a level of joy that you need in your life, a level of play, a level of you being able to come into a place where you can start to feel good about yourself, start to feel good about life, and start to express who you are. So maybe there was something over the last couple of months that did take your notice, that did take your attention, and it had something to do with you going, I'd love to do that, with a big, big smile on your face. But maybe because of lots of things, and fear could have been one of them, you just went, no, I'm not going to do it now, I'll do it later, or as I said, you probably got sidetracked with other things. Now it's time to go back, and it's time to address what that joy is. It's time to find out what it could be. And so it could be something like, starting an art class or a dance class, or, something that brings you fun and uses a certain talent or an artistic expression of sorts. And it's about activating that. It's about giving yourself what you need on that level. Okay? If it's going retrograde, Mars going retrograde through your sixth house, then I want to say this is a great time for you to get your ducks in a row. It's a really great time for purification. And when I'm talking about purification, I'm talking about there is so much in our lives that clutter our lives up. We have a lot of stuff going on that I would call crap, There's a lot of stuff going on that's extraneous, periphery stuff that brings us down. It has everything to do with the life we live, the people we hang around with, work we're doing, the thoughts we think. And this is a great time for you to go back and take a stand on all the things that are cluttering up your life and start to streamline your life in a way where you only keep the good things in your life that work for you, and you put boundaries and parameters around all the other stuff. I don't want that in my life. I don't want people in my life that bring me down. I don't want to be working in environments that make me feel less than or low. There's a feeling now of the Virgo energy, the sixth house energy, of wanting to get everything down to tin tacks, to be able to clean up your life, to be able to clean up your act. And maybe Mars is saying maybe you were too scared to take a stance. Maybe you were too scared or too caught up in other things to be able to go, this is what I want and this is what I don't want. It's really, really important to do that if Mars is going through your sixth house. A lot of people retrograding. A lot of people might say, oh, this is a work thing, she's got to be able to go to work and be strong at work and la, 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 la. Well, yeah, okay, that might play into it as well. But it's much, much more to do with getting rid of the stuff in your life that isn't working for you, and being brave enough to be able to do that, because Leo and Cancer are energies of the sun and the moon, and so the joy and the nourishment in this is really, really important to remember. Okay, so if Mars is retrograding through your 7th house, now it's going to be people, isn't it? It's going to be other people. A lot of people are going to talk about personal relationships, and that's going to come up big time. But, you know, the 7th house is just the other person, really. And so you really have to go back over the last 2 months and see what people are doing in your life. Have a good look at the people that you have, particularly the ones that are close to you. And maybe there is something in you that really does have to be brave enough to own who you are with them. Maybe you're the kind of person who gives in a lot. Maybe you're the peace at any cost kind of person. Maybe you're the kind of person who does not put their needs in front of anybody else's needs. And maybe it's time for you to actually go back and actually go, well, that's what I wanted, but I didn't do because of this person. Or, you know, that feeling of, you know, I really felt that I wanted to move in a particular direction, but the other person led me astray, you know, they led me off track. And maybe it's time for me to go back and to address what I wanted originally. And if the person's still involved in that, I need to talk to them about it, or I need to come to some kind of, you know, it's that feeling of, you know, that 7th house energy, that Libra energy. I need to be able to come into a place where what I want and who I am is just as important as them. And so maybe that might have to come up in the mix. And I need to be brave enough to go there. Okay? So if Mars is retrograding through your 8th house, so we're going into territory here, because the 8th house is always going to be the deeply shared environment between people. And my value against your value, and my worth and my power against your worth and your power. And so, again, this could be a even kind of more intense version of the 7th house. This is about you maybe going back over the last couple of months and actually having a good look at where you probably lost power or lost control via somebody else. Maybe you gave in again. Maybe there was something about you giving power away to somebody else. Maybe there was something, and people are going to say money coming into this. Well, to a certain degree, maybe there was a money issue, particularly if it's a business transaction of sorts, and maybe you have to go back to readdress that. This is about bravery. This is about having the courage to be able to own your personal power against somebody else and not let them get the better of you, or not allow them to take more from you than you're willing to give. Maybe somebody's more in the control seat, but it's very, very much about your personal value. It's about you coming into a place of owning that with somebody else. And Mars is very, very concerned with you getting what you want or what you need in this situation. Okay? So again, this is not about coming into blows, or it's not about trying to control the other person. It's just about owning who you are against somebody else's stuff, and to be brave enough to not get bowled over. Okay? So if Mars is retrograding in your 9th house, well, this is going to be a thing around possibly looking at something, or like a trip or a holiday or a journey or something, and going, ooh, this looks really exciting. But then, you know, it's a bit of money involved in this, and, you know, I've got to take time off work, and, you know, I've got a kid or two, and, you know, all those excuses not to expand, not to adventure, not to explore. And I feel that, you know, I feel that we miss out on so much of spreading our wings and learning. Maybe there was a course you want to do. You know, maybe you want to come to Sydney Astrology School. And you thought, oh, you know, well, I don't know. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to sign up for Sydney Astrology School. Or if it's not Sydney Astrology School, maybe it's time to sign up for a course or something like that that really, really floats your boat. But again, it's about going back to the last couple of months and having a good look at what it was that kind of inspired you or made you feel, you know, up and positive and gave you more meaning in what your life is supposed to be about. And as I said, you probably slid past it or you were too scared to follow through. Okay? So if Mars is retrograding through your 10th house, then this is your path in the world. This is who you are publicly. This is the role that you have. This is your public face. And so, again, if you're going back over the last couple of months, was there something on the level of what you wanted to do career-wise or within your career? Or you saw a mountain to climb and you went, oh, wow, that would be really interesting. But again, you know, it means I have to commit to something, or it means that I have to put my hiking boots on because it's a big mountain. And it feels like, I don't know, you know, I might put it off or I might not do it, or it looks pretty scary, all that kind of stuff. So maybe it's time to go back over the last couple of months, have a good look at a particular road you want to travel or a particular path that looked interesting, and have a good look at why you might not have given it much attention the first time around. Okay. Now, this could be happening in your work environment. It could be happening in your career. Maybe there is something about you standing up for yourself. Maybe there's something about you coming into a place of being bolder or a little bit more, this is what I want in my career and I better go back and I better address that. That might come into it to a certain degree as well. If Mars is retrograding through your 11th house, then I would be having a good look at the people that are in my life. Really. Because I feel that so many of us are still hanging around with people that really don't do us all that much good. Because the people in your life, the people that you rub up against and the people that you have around, your community, your allies, are supposed to be people of support. They're supposed to be, you know, friends, the typical, you know, the real meaning of a friend. But there's a lot of people in our lives that aren't necessarily friends. So again, Mars is going to go back over the last couple of months and have a good look at the people in our lives and why they're there and what you need to do about it. Because this is about activating in this particular area. This is about actually saying this is what I want and this is what I don't want in the area of the people that are hanging out with you. Okay. Now, the 11th house is also, you know, the house of projects and causes and visions and ventures. So maybe there was something there. Maybe you were looking at something and it had something to do with making a difference in the world or being a change agent of sorts. And you kind of got a little bit kind of, oh, this could be good. I'd love to be part of that. Or I'd love to join that team or whatever, but just didn't. You just overlooked it, or you got busy, or you got scared about what that could lead to. Maybe it's time to go back. Now, maybe it's time to go back, be courageous, and activate something, get something moving, get something going in that particular area. Because it feels like, to me, it feels like it's an important thing for you to do with Mars retrograding back. It's like you've missed something here, okay? So if Mars is retrograding through your 12th house, now this, a lot of people are going to go, oh, this person just needs some quiet time. It's really good for them to be able to just lock themselves away for 2 or 3 months. Well, I'm not going to disagree with that. There could be something in that, but you don't want to become that much of a hermit. You don't want to actually isolate yourself to that degree. But I do want to say that Mars is actually going to be going back to something that talked to you from the inside out. It's a little bit like you had an intuitive twinge. It's a little bit like the universe spoke to you about something and you kind of went, yeah, right, okay, and then got on with reality, you know. It was something that you felt or that you knew that the universe was giving you kind of hints around, and you didn't listen to it or didn't want to listen to it or were too scared to listen to it, too scared to follow through. Mars is actually saying you've got to be brave enough to listen to your inner voice. You know, you've got to be brave enough to listen to what your gut is saying, because your gut is trying to tell you something on the level of what you need to activate. So again, if meditation or long walks in nature or sitting down by the waterfront, you know, is your thing, you know, and you enjoy doing that kind of stuff, I would say more of that kind of stuff. Mars is actually saying you've got to activate areas in your life that bring you to a beautiful place, that bring you to a sacred place where you connect a lot more easily. And don't be scared of letting go. Don't be scared of coming to a place where you can actually start to breathe again, you know, start to exhale again. Not everything in life has to be about go, go, go. Not everything in life has to have, you know, tension and anxiety all around it. We need to have that beautiful, beautiful place where we just relax into ourselves and to have that feeling of everything is right in the world, everything is good in the world. And Mars retrograding is actually getting us to activate a particular area in our lives that kind of want us to do this. It's about activating the peace, the inner peace within us, and not being scared to do that. Okay? So it is nearly a 3-month period with Mars retrograding, but it's a really good idea just to keep that in mind. Whatever house it's going through, as I've just said, just take in the arena, take in the territory, go back a couple of months and have a good look at what was going on a couple of months ago. And did you miss something? Were you too scared to do something about it? Now this is your time to actually come into a place, as I said, where you're getting another go, where you're getting a second go. So I want everybody to really enjoy this. I want everybody to really have a good time during the Mars retrograde and to really get the most out of it, to really suck the juice out of it, and to really find the benefit in Mars retrograde, and to be able to come into a place where you are grateful for having another go at something that you could have missed the first time around.